When it comes to investing your money, there are a lot of different opinions on the best way to do this. Do you pay off your debt first? Do you save or invest your money? Do you pay off your mortgage? So many conflicting advice and opinions. So, what is the optimal order for investing your money? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. I'll be sharing what I personally believe is the most optimal order to invest your money in order to get the most out of it. It's not rocket science, guys. It's about applying best practices and some common sense. Think of it this way. How many investments do you know that gives you a guaranteed 100% return regardless of the economy or market conditions? Sure, stocks and crypto can give you some pretty great returns, but they are not really guaranteed. There is only one that I know of, and that's where your money should go to first. That is the employer match contribution. This is called different things in different countries. Here in the UK, it's called the pension contribution, and in the US, it's called 401k. In Australia, it's called superannuation. And what this essentially means is that for every pounds or dollars that you contribute, your employer also match that contribution and put it towards your pension. For example, let's say that your employer matches 100% of your pension contribution up to 5% of your annual income. So, if you're making $100,000 a year, when you contribute $5,000 into your pension, your employer will contribute an extra $5,000, which means you're essentially making 100% return on your investment instantly. There's not an investment in the world that offers risk-free return like this, which is why it bogs my mind whenever I watch this kind of video from other finance YouTubers and they recommend building an emergency fund first. That's just ridiculous because you are just leaving free money on the table. Emergency funds take a long time to build, and by this time you would have missed out on a lot of money from the employer match contribution that could have compounded over the years. It's just common sense, guys. And I'm not saying these finance YouTubers are wrong about you having an emergency fund, but I believe this should be the second and not the first place your money is going to. An emergency fund isn't something that you build overnight. It takes a while. It's an ongoing process for a lot of people that takes about a year or two. So as you're taking advantage of your employer match contribution monthly, you're also contributing to your emergency fund. I know the school of thought around this is to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up as an emergency fund before considering any kind of investment. I personally think this is an overkill. This insane 3 to 6 month narrative became a thing because it takes that amount of time to find a new job if you become unemployed. And truly, this really does give you the breathing room to find a job that you want instead of jumping at the first thing that comes along just because you are desperate for cash. However, what I would recommend is a preliminary emergency fund, something people call the safety net, which is basically saving just $1,000 or even better, just 1 month of living expenses as your initial emergency fund. This is something you can do relatively easily. Put that money in a high yield savings account that you can access easily without the need of paying any fees. Remember guys, the emergency fund is for essential costs only. You don't need to build up a lot of cash that cover things like your savings, clothing budget, holidays or nights out. This is for small emergencies like a car breakdown or a medical bill. So actually, you quickly realize that 1 month of essentials is probably a lot less than you originally imagined. After saving up this safety net, you can now move on to other things that we'll be talking about in these videos. And while you are doing those other things, you can continually add to your emergency fund month in, month out, just to build it out to the 3 to 6 month recommendation. Number 3 on our list is getting rid of high interest consumer debt. I would categorize high interest consumer debt as anything more than 8%. This is because historically, the stock market has returned an average of 8% yearly adjusted for inflation. So any loan rate that's above 8% for me is high interest debt. And for most people, this will include things like credit card, payday loans, or even some student loan. The biggest problem with this kind of debt is that it restricts your monthly income. It does massively restrict the amount you can save or invest. The best thing you can do for yourself financially is to pay this off as quick as possible. Paying this off is actually a tax-free, risk-free, 100% guarantee rate of return. For example, if you have a credit card debt with an interest rate of about 23%, then by paying off that debt, you're essentially making a guaranteed return of 23% on that principal. There is no easy way to pay off a high interest debt except to just do it. List out all your high interest debt and create a plan for getting rid of them. You can use the debt snowball method or the avalanche method. The snowball method is where you make minimum payments on all your debts and then focus on the smallest debt first. After clearing that off, you use that money to focus on the next smallest debt. The idea here is that it is motivating to see your debt get cleared one by one. The avalanche method is similar, but it focuses on the high interest debt first. After clearing that, you then use that money to focus on the next high interest debt. Just do whatever feels best to you. And once that high interest debt is paid off, you'll be amazed at how much money, how much income you have available to elevate the rest of your finances. After paying off any high interest consumer debt, you now want to go back to building out a full-fledged emergency fund, which is number 4 on our list. Recall that initially we focused on building a safety net of 1 month living expenses and then adding to it month in, month out. By now, if you haven't already saved up 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, this is where you'd want to focus on next. Imagine the kind of freedom and stability you'd have if you had 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses sitting in your bank at all times, knowing that if something unexpected happened, like losing your job or your business not working out, you would have something to fall back on and you wouldn't have to rely on debt to bail you out. Start by figuring out the minimum amount you need to cover your fixed and variable expenses for the month. Then multiply that number by 3 to 6 months if you are employed or 9 to 12 months if you are self-employed. This number is your emergency fund. Unlike the safety net, this is for larger financial challenges that have long-term implications like losing your job. Now, once you've done that, this is where the fun really begins because you've completed the groundwork for a truly financial free future. And once you got that sorted, you are ready for investing and exploring other financial opportunities. Number 5 on our list is investing in advantageous accounts like an ISA if you're in the UK or a Roth IRA if you're in the US. This is one of the most tax efficient places you can grow or invest your money because unlike most other investments where you need to pay capital gain tax on your profit, with an ISA or an Roth IRA, your profit are shielded from the taxman. This might not sound significant to you today, but the tax landscape is always changing. Some overzealous politician could get into power and raise the capital gain tax to fund some big government projects, but by having that assurance that your profit won't be taxed regardless, it's a welcome peace of mind. And the next place you should be investing is liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Just kidding. But seriously guys, if you haven't already done so, please do like this video and share it with others and consider subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel a lot and motivates me to put out even more videos. Thanks. Now, back to the video. For number 6, we have to go back to the pension or 401k we talked about at the start of the video. But this time, we are not just talking about the employer match contribution, we are talking about maxing it out completely. Just because you've taken full advantage of your employer match contribution doesn't mean you can't contribute more to your 401k, as this is one of the most effective ways to lower your taxable income and put more money into the stock market. In the UK, you can also do this through the SIP, or the self-invested personal pension. For every taxable income you pay into a SIP, the government tops it up with 20% if you're a basic taxpayer. You can claim even more money from the government if you're a higher taxpayer. This is money that could be working for you and compounding for decades. Number 7 on our list is investing in taxable brokerage accounts. Once you've maxed out all your tax advantage options when it comes to investing, you can start investing additional money into a regular taxable brokerage account. However, it's important to note that you don't gain any taxable benefit when you're using this type of account. But when compounded over time, you really can't deny the average return of those 8 to 10% you would get if you invested in low-cost passive index fund for a very long period of time. That being said, you can still maximize tax efficiencies with a brokerage account when you sell a stock at a profit. You can choose to pay the lower long-term capital gain tax if you hold the stock for more than a year, instead of paying the higher short-term capital gain tax if you hold it for less than a year. Next on our list is paying off low interest debt. This would include things like a student loan and sometimes your car loan. We are not including mortgage in this category. From a financial standpoint, this debt may not be hurting you as much, and normally I would still suggest getting rid of it immediately. But if you watched my video on how to leverage low interest debt to reduce your tax and grow more wealth, then hanging on to those debts can be profitable if you intend to invest that money instead. But if you're not paying off this debt because you rather have more money left over to spend on things you enjoy, then I'll consider paying them off as soon as possible. Here's the thing, if you let your guard down around debt, you quickly find yourself funding an elevated lifestyle with that low interest debt, buying cars you don't need, getting student loan for a degree that will not advance your career, and buying luxury fake t-shirts that you don't even like. If I were you, I'll get rid of any consumer debt that is not meant for investment. Whether they are low or high interest, doesn't really matter. You will not only be taking care of your financial well-being, but also of your mental and emotional well-being. Next, let's talk about whether paying off your mortgage early is the right move for you. And of course, this is completely optional and depends on your unique financial situation. There are several factors to consider here, like how much equity do you have left? When does your fixed rate expire? How much time do you have remaining? Given the current higher interest rate, it makes sense that most people might lean towards paying off their mortgage and be done with it. However, in my case, the anticipated long-term average return of 8% from the stock market compounded over years makes me think, nah, I'm not paying mine off. Putting the same amount of money in the market over the mortgage period will likely yield a better return for me. But that's me. And if I were to delay to start investing and rather pay off my mortgage, I would miss out on those valuable time in the market, thereby affecting the benefit of compounding and long-term growth. Surely, there are emotional benefits to paying off your mortgage early and enjoying a mortgage-free life. In the end, the decision depends on what matters most to you. Finally, let's talk about speculative investments like individual stocks, crypto, gold, watches, and any other degen play that tickles your fancy. It's important to note that this should come last in your investing order. Make sure you have everything else set up before rolling the dice and using between 1 to 5% of your investment on this. Most people will recommend only 3% of your investable capital. There are a few mixed opinions about this, and there are people who strongly oppose to investing in things like crypto and other speculative assets. But we can't also ignore the fact that a lot of people have gotten immensely rich from buying crypto, whether it's Bitcoin or some dog mint coin. So, what do I think? Well, for me, I think speculative or risky assets should form 1 to 5% of my portfolio as it works together to compound my wealth over time. But let's be clear, when you are buying things like crypto, you are not investing your money. Don't let anyone fool you. You are gambling. Full stop. You should understand that there is a likelihood that you could lose all your money, which is why it should only be a fraction of your overall investment portfolio. I like crypto. It's been performing well lately and I've made a significant amount of money in this year alone. However, I don't put all my eggs into that one basket because crypto is a speculative bet. I am essentially gambling and I know that, which is why 95% of my investment is sitting in a low-cost index fund, which has a track record of good returns when compounded over time. Hopefully, this helps out 1 or 2 people out there who are a bit confused on what order to invest their money. And if you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy the tax one I talked about earlier. I've put that up here for your convenience. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.